Welcome to the Architecture SEO Show. It's architecture stories, issues, opportunities, and learnings. Today I have with me Shanty. Shanty is my colleague in SJ
Yeah.
Township. Say hi.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. No worries.
So today I'm going to just dive into your story and also maybe share a bit about what you're doing as an architect as well as a young mom. Yeah. So firstly, maybe just talk about, for those who do not know you, where you your journey from the very start in school all the way to where you are right now.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Shanty. I have a very long name actually, but you can just call me Shanty. I'm from Indonesia. I came to Singapore in 2007. So that was like I was a fresh grad.
Oh.
And then I just tried to apply for a job here. So I came from, I don't know whether you're familiar with Bandung, a city in
Oh, yeah.
Indonesia.
Indonesia,
So there's this one university called ITB, Institute Teknologi Bandung, which is like Bandung Institute of Technology. So I graduated from there, and then some of my seniors already started working in Singapore. So why not just try? So I tried, and then I applied to several companies, and then I landed in SJ.
Oh, okay.
So I started in 2007. 2007, but that time I was very young. My intention was like, I just want to save up and then go for further study. So I worked for like 3.5 years while applying for school. So I got accepted at 2 universities actually. So I got accepted at Delft and I got accepted at Bartlett. So I took Bartlett. I went there in 2010, graduated in 2011. And then as soon as I received my results, suddenly our boss suddenly emailed me asking me, hey, I think you should have like graduated by now. Are you interested in coming back? So I was like looking at my bank account. I'm like, sure. Straight away.
Okay.
So I replied, sure, I'll be back, but it will be like the following year because I graduated somewhere in November 2011.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll be coming back next year. At least I have a little bit of time for me to have a break, go for a solo trip, something like that, right? Yeah, so I came back in 2012 and I started to think about like whether I should actually take the BOA, the PPE.
PPE, right?
Yeah, so it took a long time because unfortunately my university in Indonesia is not really registered in the system, right? So, and then my master degree, because I took urban design in Bartlett. So my master degree wasn't really registered as well. The major that was registered actually the undergraduate, the bachelor. So I was like, okay, so I had to go a different, the different path to actually take the journey. I had to submit my portfolio. I had to go for interviews. So I went that. So I actually did my my logbook for 3 years, I guess, and then I took the exam. Then ever since I haven't really moved out from SJ. I moved out once.
Maybe you could share how many years have you been in SG?
In total,
Double digits,
it would be like double digits, totally
okay.
double digits.
Yeah.
It's 15 years.
Oh,
I think
wow.
close to 15 years. Yeah, close to 15 years. Yeah, so it was like I was even joking with our boss.
Yeah.
I was like, I actually joined SJ from I was single, not really having any boyfriend, to have a boyfriend, to have a fiance, to get married and finally have kid.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like the whole journey of my life per se in Singapore, actually with SJ. Yeah.
So basically, you can share a little bit about what you do in SG, like public housing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So mostly I'm doing public housing, but there are some opportunities to do some other types of project, which is rare because it just happened that our team is specializing in public housing. So since the beginning, since I joined in 2007, it was already started with public housing, which actually helped me when I was doing my preparation for school because I wanted to do urban design, right? So when you apply for school, you have that statement letter that you actually need to give to the uni.
Okay.
So in my statement letter, I actually crafted it in a way that I see urban design as, creating a city, and the precinct that I'm creating in public housing is like a small city. Because you have to be sensitive for everything. You have to think about because you are actually designing for a lot of people, not really we know our client is one
Yeah.
body, but technically speaking, you're actually designing for whoever that is actually buying the units there. So it's I feel like it's like designing a small city within a big city. So that was how I actually crafted my statement letter that got me into the uni.
So we can dive a little bit, right? Because not many people know what architects in public housing realms do. There's so many different stages, so many different people, entities, and it's becoming more and more complex. Could you share a little bit more about the challenges that you faced along the way and like maybe how you overcame them?
So in terms of like doing public housing, the first thing that probably people will think is very dense because it is by nature that public housing needs to be dense. That because we need to provide more units, etc. Right?
Yeah.
But the challenges that I wouldn't say challenges actually. It's like a lesson learned because when you start from paper, you do presentation. We do presentation, and then they have so many stakeholders as well, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to be sensitive enough or know to take which one that you can actually take to you have to accommodate
Because there's so many different opinions
Yes,
and,
correct.
and requirements from different departments or different, people.
departments within our client.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, if you're talking about public housing, we know that our
Yeah,
client
it's
is
HDB,
HDB.
yeah, sure.
So it's like they have so many stakeholders there. They have different agendas of like what they envision
Yeah.
to that particular project, for example. So at first I struggled because I came from Indonesia. I had zero knowledge of what is public housing in Singapore. What would be the compliances? What would be the thing that I need to know? I struggled a lot, but I think having a good mentor is very, very, very crucial. So it happened that our boss,
Yeah.
yeah, so she literally sat with me like for my first 6 months, like educating me of what public housing is, because sometimes when you do things you don't know why it happened or how it happened. So she was the person who actually explained all of those to me that I was like probably one of the reason why I'm still around in this game.
Yeah, I agree with
so-
you that mentors are very important, especially when you're encountering something very new at the very start.
Yeah, correct. So my journey with public housing basically started from that 6 months of period, and then she just like okay, now you just do it yourself. You do the drawings, you do the presentations, and then you do whatever coordination that is needed. So it was a hard time, I feel, for me that time, but it was the best way for you to understand how to do things. It's not only about public housing, in doing anything actually. Yeah. So when I did my first ever project for public housing, it was like literally designing from the unit. Because at school sometimes you're given a brief, but then it can be of whatever your imagination is,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
So but in public housing, they have a certain limitation that you have to actually follow. So from the unit, from the sizes and everything, I literally learned from scratch, and to try to understand why it's like that. Why is the size like that? So it's like from a unit becoming bigger to a block, becoming bigger to a precinct.
Yeah.
Then come about like, okay, what do you think? Like the first, not really the first question. Some of the questions that our boss actually asked me was like, how do you think if you do this? What would the people think that if you do this? So that kept on like repeating in my mind for that. So is a process even until now, because things keep on changing, right? Complexity of public housing getting more and more. So it's like it's really always learning about what we should actually do to improve the as simple as to improve the unit, to improve the block, how you walk from the lift to your
Yeah.
unit, how you prevent like any dark corners. So it's like it's that kind of thing that I feel is very personal. I feel, and then to the precinct, as simple as how you walk to your multi-story car park is, as I said, it's really like designing a small city. You need to take into consideration about the convenience of your whoever that is going to actually buy the unit. So those are the things that I feel, yes, it's a challenge, but it's really something that most of it are actually very logical. I feel, in terms of like designing.
Actually, when you dive in deep to the design checklist that HDB provides, right? I also face the same problem. I initially trying to understand. Firstly, it's too many things. Secondly, I'm trying to figure out. Okay, I took some time as well. I came in like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I also struggled in like, initially understanding the checklist. And also, also the same boss, Gijit also
Yeah.
helps me to understand the rationale with every at least most of the compliance or the
Yeah.
requirements. But so after knowing the rationale why HDB wants this, you appreciate the design choices that HDB would like us to do.
It's like there is a reason behind it. Maybe
Yeah.
at the first glance, it's like, oh my god, what the heck is this? Like
Yeah.
so many checklists, and then you have to literally see one by one. But then, I mean, probably because I've been doing this for 15 years. Oh
Yeah.
my god, so it's like
You become an
sometimes-
expert already.
so it's like okay. Sometimes you don't even need to see the drawings. You kind of know that okay, I definitely need to actually comply with this. Or even if you're not able to comply, what is your reason? Because sometimes we do have checklists, we do have guidelines, but I feel like if there is a way to improve it, or to not to question, like maybe to understand why,
Yeah.
it's okay to actually ask, or it's okay to actually like propose something to HDB to actually reconsider.
Yeah.
I feel
Actually, I'm just quite curious, right? So there are some projects with roof gardens at the residential blocks. So your personal opinion is, do you think is it a good thing to have roof gardens? Because people are staying in the block.
yeah.
And then the roof garden, right, sometimes it's quite noisy and it's like gathering space for non-residents. Yeah, it's quite controversial in that way. So some people hate it, some people love it.
Yes, correct. I think in terms of like residential roof garden, the roof garden at the residential block
Yeah.
itself, I feel like that it shouldn't be like a very active place, because in a way, if you see from afar, it's actually a nice gesture because you're introducing layer of greeneries to the top,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, it happened to me. So I have a project where I have a residential roof garden on top. The resident feedback was like, you have lighting, it's glaring into my bedroom.
Yes.
And that kind of stuff always coming, right? So that's why I think learning from there is okay. This project that I have is actually one of the longest project that I have, because it took almost like 6 years, but it was also because of COVID.
Right?
Yeah. So it took almost 6 years. So it was like I learned from there as well that okay, when you have to be conscious enough, if you want to introduce this layer of greenery to your block, you have to be sensitive that maybe like it shouldn't be like a very active place. You shouldn't actually put like some kind of like a playground on top of that where people want to actually rest, you see. Like when you're inside the unit, you actually want to see like good greenery, like what you have here.
Yes.
Like good greenery or quiet place.
Like views.
Yeah, the views and everything. So I think personally I feel it is still a very good gesture. Because nowadays, right? Especially nowadays, things are getting denser and denser and denser. Introducing a little bit of like void space, introducing a little bit of greenery is actually always a good gesture. But then, I also understand why HDB is like not really in favor to actually have roof garden because of maintenance.
Maintenance. And the noise level also.
Noise level. Yeah. So if we can't really introduce that to the residential, maybe we can do something else to the residential. So it depends on how we can actually convince HDB, because I have another project where at the beginning it was already mentioned, no, you shouldn't actually have this link bridge to the roof garden. You shouldn't have roof garden on top of your facilities. But in the end, we were able to actually convince HDB, there's actually a benefit if you introduce greenery to your roof. So it's like yes, you understand where you're coming from, but actually if you introduce this, it's to the benefit of your resident.
Okay.
Instead of like your resident complaining, my block is higher, I'm looking at concrete and the concrete is actually large. So there are ways to actually present it in a way that it is really for your benefit. We understand your concern, but it is really for your benefit. It's that kind of thing.
Right. So there's a lot of different, so like other than just design guidelines and checklists, right? There's also those misconceptions or maybe some things that you didn't expect from public housing design, or even designing like a precinct, right?
Correct.
Maybe just share a little bit about what was something very surprising. Like I didn't know residents think about this.
Oh, okay. It's as simple as this. You know, when you actually launch the project, you have your physical model, you have your launch brochure, and everything,
yeah.
right? So we as the designer, right? We as the architect, we expect that when the person actually bought the unit, they have seen where you're looking at. They have seen how the block layout and everything. So I actually have like two instances. The first one was very old. It was like somewhere in 2010. So I received a complaint from the resident about the person actually bought a two-room unit. So it's like, you know, with one bedroom inside.
Yeah.
So we actually declared in our brochure that, okay, you can actually fit a queen size. Okay, we didn't really declare, but
There's no dimensions, by the
yeah,
way.
there is no dimension. We didn't really declare, but
Yeah.
it's, you can kind of see that it's actually like a queen size bed can actually fit inside. And then normally when residents give feedback to HDB will ask consultant for, you know, clarification.
Correct.
So we clarified, oh, it's like a two-room unit. Then the resident's like, oh, I cannot fit my king size. So we were like, I mean, initial reaction would be like, duh, we already said that it's queen size. You want to put king size, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
But I think it's about like PR stuff, like how to explain to the resident that, okay, it's actually queen size bed. There's another instance where the resident actually complained, how come my unit is so close to the chute? Again, initial reaction is like, duh,
You've seen it in the
you've
brochure.
seen it in the brochure.
Yeah.
So, but obviously you cannot actually say that. You
Of
have
course.
to explain
You have to say
everything.
it tact,
And then, if there is actually a way to mitigate it, you help as well to mitigate it. Or the recent one, my newest project, complain about the same thing. My unit is facing to the MSCP. We have already gone to the extent where we know that we have a unit facing the multi-story car park. We try to, you know, design the multi-story car park with planters or whatever. Then the resident actually said, oh, I want more. But when you want more, there are several things that maybe we as an architect will understand. We cannot actually block the ventilation of the multi-story car park.
Yeah, for
with
fire
a
safety.
lot- for fire safety.
Yeah.
The resident doesn't know this, right? So we have to try
You have
to
to craft the response,
the response in a way that you have to understand it's for fire safety. However, we have already done the you know, the additional effort to treat it differently with planters or with some kind of screening. So it's like that kind of thing where I feel that you should have actually understood it when you bought the unit, but how come you're coming back to me? So it's like that kind of thing that sometimes surprised me.
Yeah, okay. There's also like an instance where so now, right, my project currently also handover already. So residents are moving in, they've already moved in for I think a few months already. And they're requesting for many linkways, you know. So I was like, okay, we can consider, but recognize that we have like underground services. And I know it helps with convenience, and then a proper shuttle connection to, they want to build across a junction. So the junction is another ballgame altogether, because it's not only under the housing development, the ownership is by the Land Transport Authority. So there's a lot of different nuances that are in play. Current status is I'm not sure. And we don't want to do it, but I'll see how. But so the soft skills that an architect has to have, maybe you can share a little bit about that in terms of in relation to your job, or maybe in the whole domain of public housing. Yeah.
Actually, for this one, I just gonna be bluntly honest. I'm also still very learning, because when we are human, right? When you suddenly receive a feedback, especially when the feedback is very harsh, like, what is the architect doing? How come? You know that it happens. It's very real, but very real, guys. So it happens. As a human, your first initial reaction, especially when you're just having a very bad day, is like,
Wow.
what the? You know, it's always that kind of reaction, right? So it's always good to vent it out. One, I always believe in like you just vent it out first, not venting out by replying
not to
the
the
email,
resident.
not to the resident,
But at least to the colleagues,
yeah,
right?
to your colleague. It's
Yeah,
like, can
yeah.
you see this? Can you believe this? I think it's fine
Hmm.
because you need that kind of like venting out. But then after that, that soft skill needs to come as well.
Yeah.
Like what you said, we can try to accommodate. However, if we do this,
There's some constraints.
yeah, there are some constraints, that kind of stuff. So I think in a way, say for example, as simple as linkway, because nowadays linkway is very in thing, right? It's like I want linkway everywhere. I want shelter everywhere. So it's like try to explain in a way that okay, we might not be able to accommodate your request to have this linkway from point A to point B. However, in our overall planning, we actually already planned that from point A, from point B, you can go from here, and it's all
It's a
sheltered.
different route, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different route, and it's all
Maybe a bit
sheltered.
longer, but
So it's that kind of effort. The first effort is always that because it's not as simple as just building the linkway. Cost is one.
Yep.
And then like your case, if you have services or if it's crossing over someone else's land, it's a lot of complication happening. And it might be a short 5-meter linkway, but the process might be 5 years.
Yeah. I guess.
So it's like is this soft skill, I think I'm not sure, but it was never been like taught in my school days. This kind of soft skill, it's really like learning by doing. Yeah, learning by doing it. So
Right,
it's
right.
like
So what drives you to wake up every morning and do this job?
sometimes it's hard.
I mean, most of the days. you know.
Yeah, most of the days are actually very hard, but I guess
So what is keeping you going? Maybe your family, or is it just the passion?
passion,
Or money?
money of course.
Yes.
Family, yes. And then if I think I've ever shared this with one of my colleagues. I think I am just that person where even if I say I want to quit, or even if I say I want to take a break, the break might not be able to be that long because there's always I don't know about you guys, but I mean it's like there's always that feel of like I'm not doing anything, so I need to do something. I think it is that thing. But to be honest, because I've been like into this for so long, right? It's like I kind of like there was one time someone asked me, "What's your hobby?" I'm like, what's my hobby? It's like it's a struggle as well for me because it's like everything is just to either family related or work related. Sometimes
Any hobbies?
yeah, my hobbies is like
Your family.
what's my hobby? It's like I just do whatever that I feel like that time. So
Okay.
my reply to that question was like, you're right. I think I need to find a hobby. Yeah.
Do you work OT a lot?
Most of the time, kind of yes. Yeah, kind of yes. But then again, right? Especially now that I'm a mom, right? I still have to balance up. It's rare. Especially when we're doing like competitions, sometimes you really need to work OT a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then we had a lot of competition during COVID time, and we were working from home.
Yeah.
So I remember that we like me and the team, right? We were like, okay, let's just go. We use MS Team, right, at office.
Yeah.
So we just call each other up. We're working, we're talking. It's just to give that vibe that you're not working it alone.
Still virtually around. Right?
It's like you're not working it alone. We're actually working on this together.
Yes.
So we were working like until 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and then suddenly around 2 a.m. like, oh sorry guys, I need to go for a while because my daughter woke awake. So it's like I have to still have time for her. Yeah. So it was crazy that time, but to look at it again now is something like wow, managed to actually went through that. Yeah.
Well, congrats to going through the tough stage. I mean, I can imagine for a very young kid, like back in COVID times, your kids were quite young now.
Yeah.
Like that time, right? They need more attention.
Yeah.
Need more time from you.
During COVID, my daughter was 5. 5 years
Still
old.
okay.
Yeah, 5 years old. I mean, she is not really a very I have to say that she's a good girl. One of our colleagues actually said, I think you've used up all your luck for her. I was like, yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Because things can be very rough at office, but then when you come back home, knowing that she's doing okay, that she's enjoying what she's doing,
Yeah.
that is giving me the reassurance that okay, I think I can rest a bit.
Yeah. So it doesn't require like a lot of time. Lah.
Yep,
But
yep,
at least there's some understanding between the kid and you that mom's working, understand a bit. Lah.
Yeah, that's actually very
communication,
important.
right?
Yeah, that's actually very important because I had this discussion with my husband as well. So because my husband is also an architect, by the way.
Oh, okay.
So our working hour is sometimes unpredictable. I mean, for us, you're working in a corporate, right? For my husband, he has his own firm with his partner.
Oh, okay.
So it's like sometimes he will be meeting his client over the weekend. So we have to accommodate.
You have to like shuffle the schedules.
Yeah. So when we had our daughter, we were like talking that to a certain extent we have to share with her that we are also vulnerable, that we're also tired. I think it's important because when you share that to me, to my style, when you share that, I'm just trying to tell her that it's okay if you are also feeling vulnerable, let's talk about it. So, but at the beginning, I was like, I was using like words, okay, because my daughter's name is actually Langit. So I was like, Langit, let's have a conversation. And then the first thing that she asked me was like, what is conversation? So I was like, oh yeah, I should actually use a simpler word. Let's talk. Because you're so used to like, at office, let's have a discussion or let's have a conversation about this or whatever that is. So it sometimes I forgot about it and I brought it home to her. So it's like her vocabulary sometimes is like more because of the choices of words that we're using.
Okay. So that's juggling job, kid, time with your spouse, that is probably a challenge, but I'm quite sure you managed to find a way to work it out, right? So actually a lot to do with communication,
Yes.
I would say.
Yes, a lot to do with communications. And like what I said just now is like, I think it's with every parents when your kid is having a tantrum, sometimes it's like you have a lot of things at work and then sometimes you accidentally vent it out to your kid, right? So that's why I try not to do that, but at the same time, like what I mentioned, I'm trying to tell her that I'm tired, can you give me a little bit of time and then we can play again. So it's like that kind of mutual understanding. If you're tired, it's okay. I'm not gonna you and your kids like you like to annoy each other as well, right? So that's important, I feel.
Maybe I just want to do something a bit fun. So I have 3 statements that you can answer. So it's something like architects can be more what. So I have 3 of these. You can just share honestly what you think. Okay, so maybe the first one is architects should be more blank.
Architect should be more sensitive.
Why?
Architect needs to be more sensitive because nowadays in the era where everybody wants to have pretty picture, I want
Just a render.
I want a good rendering, but what is behind that rendering? What do you actually do to the surrounding? Maybe it's coming from a background of doing public housing as well. I have to link to here, I have to link to there, I have to as simple as linking to the public transport. Because like in public housing, we are expected to have sheltered linkway or a proper linkway, not only sheltered, like any path, any proper pedestrian path that can actually create convenience. But it doesn't happen to all though. So it's like, yes, so I feel that architect needs to be a bit more sensitive, especially in the era where everything is standardized. When everything is standardized, your limitation is actually a lot more. So that sensitivity is actually required to even spot, I think you shouldn't do this. It's that kind of sensitivity that I'm talking about.
Okay. So residents in Singapore should be less
complaining. I guess, but but how to say it's like some okay, I shouldn't say complaint, feedback.
Feedback.
It's like some feedback are valid.
Mm.
I have to agree, some feedback are actually
Yeah, I
very,
also
very
agree. Yeah.
valid. But some other feedback are just like, are you just giving this for the sake of giving this? You know, like the one that we shared just now.
Yeah.
You already bought the unit, and then you're giving feedback
You have
that I'm
to see
looking at.
the agenda of why the complaint is sent.
Yeah, correct. So that's what I actually feel.
Okay. What is something that Shanty's secret skill is?
Okay, I am actually a very introvert person,
Mm.
but I think my skill is I can be seen as extrovert. Yeah, so it's like I don't really go out that much, but then maybe, but when I talk to a person, it's very personal, so that person might feel comfortable. I feel
Actually, like now, yeah.
yeah. So it's like that person might feel comfortable. So I think that's my secret skill.
But I think that is also applies to me as well. Like I mean, now I'm talking to you, right? It's like a conversation, but after that, I think I'll probably recharge. I'll have to lie down a bit sleep for a while. I talk to somebody for 1 hour, and although I really enjoy the conversation we have, but it's introverted thing to
I
go down and
totally
rest,
get it.
like to recharge the batteries.
Yeah,
So
I
I totally
get
understand.
it.
Yeah.
Totally get it. It's like sometimes when I decide, okay, tomorrow I have to go out, but then in the morning, like it's like, oh my god, how come so many human out there?
But actually, the architects need to have that skill as well. I would think, to actually communicate with a client or to communicate with people, and to convince them, and that takes out a lot of social battery. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I can imagine after presentations or after meetings,
Oh,
you'll be
yeah.
like so drained.
It's like even if the meeting is online, right?
Yes.
After the meeting, I'll be like,
Close eyes
yeah, it's like,
and just shut. Okay. Yeah, so that's very interesting to hear. I mean, I didn't. Okay, I kind of know that you're an introvert. Yeah, I can tell. But at office, you always are very loud because you need to talk to people, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the job. But I also had a sensing that you were an introvert. Yeah,
it's
which I can finally
tiring,
understand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but yeah, as introverts, we have to find a way to adapt to the situation. If not, we will lose out,
Yeah.
and your voice is not heard.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, what is your ambition goal?
5 to 10
Maybe
years.
2 to 5 years.
2 to 5 years. What's my
Because you are
ambition?
maybe I don't know, maybe in a career or in personal life. Anything you're looking forward to?
What I'm looking forward to. Must it be in architecture?
No, can be maybe you want to travel. I don't know.
Travel is one thing.
Yeah.
Travel is. I feel like I used to travel a lot before I got married. Solo trip. I used to travel a lot, but then now it's kind of like limited. So I would want to actually introduce that to my daughter. Introduce that apart from, because now she's also having a little bit of like identity crisis.
Okay.
If you understand, it's like she's actually Indonesian, but she considers herself as Singaporean.
Oh yeah.
So it's like that kind of identity crisis. Even like myself, when I went to UK for my further study, right? My passport is Indonesian. I flew from Singapore to London.
Yeah.
But in my passport, I was born in the Philippines. So I was being questioned at the immigration.
Oh, wow.
So what? Are you Singaporean? I was like, duh, my passport is Indonesian. Of course I'm Indonesian, right? So it's like, yeah, so I feel like I really like to introduce that to my daughter, because by traveling, if I were to relate it with architecture, when you're traveling, you also learn about a lot of things as well.
Yes.
Like we are doing, like for instance, if I may share once, in Singapore, everything is about providing density. We have to maximize, because our
number of
land,
units,
because our land is very limited,
Yeah.
right? So I had one chance where I was part of this team to go to Japan to actually present like what is public housing in Singapore is, and then to present to them like what we foresee in 2050. What we foresee in the 2050. Obviously, coming from Singapore, we foresee that we need to provide more more mode of housing.
Oh,
Right?
yes.
So I went to Japan. They were like but that's not what's happening here. And then they were like sharing, we are actually lacking people to live in our public housing. So there are many units.
It's a different challenges.
Yeah, it's different challenges. So that actually kind of like opened my eye that, oh yeah, so we have to be careful as well when we are presenting, because what we have here might not what they need over there. So, but they have a clever idea of like, okay, our public housing are actually empty. So like those part that are empty, they transform it into something else.
Oh, okay.
So it's that kind of like intervention that I actually like in terms of urban design, which is why I took my school at Bartlett, because when I did my final, not actually it's not final year, because my master degree was only for 1 year. So for the thesis, instead of like creating a new city, right, I actually insert things into an old city, because our that time for final thesis, our, what do you call that, yeah, it's like your location needed to be in Istanbul. So we all went to Istanbul. Everybody was like trying to find an empty lot. I envisioned this to be like eco city or whatever that is.
Like a new development.
Yeah, it's like a new development.
Yeah.
But my version of a city is like I did an intervention to something that is unused. So that was my thesis for my urban my master degree. Then when I went to Japan, I was kind of like shocked. Oh, what I thought a few years back is actually
applies to this context.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's like sometimes while traveling, you kind of see as well, especially my husband is also an architect, so it's like whenever we go there, even if it's not intended to visit a museum of Tadao Ando, for example, in the end we will still think about like, oh, you know what, if we could have actually done this. Yeah, it's like that kind of a thing.
Do you intend to work with your husband? Maybe doesn't need to involve you quitting the job actually, but at least something together.
Yeah, so I think we did like try to work together before, but it was a bit too much, I
Clash, is
guess.
it?
It's not really clash in a way, but because it was just like it's not really a freelance. It's like one of our relatives is asking us, okay, you do something, but probably that time we were too tied up with work, and then to be able to work on it together was really a challenge, because you literally have to use your weekend, right? Yeah. And then my husband already has a good dynamic with his partner, so I don't want to include that, and then it's like mess up everything. Yeah. But in terms of like they're posting something, and then I don't mind to reshare it. It's just as simple as that, I guess.
To support them.
Yeah, to support them.
Yeah, you need advice for fresh grads, or maybe fresh grads first, and then later towards young architects pursuing QP.
Be persistent. For fresh grad, be persistent, because I mean probably it's coming from my experience from like what I said, I came from Indonesia. I was even struggling to understand Singaporean English that time.
Okay.
To pick up a phone call was actually scary for me. So, but yeah, persistence is one. And then when you are faced with challenges, sometimes you gotta tell yourself it's okay for you to fail now. It's okay for you to fail now, but you have to be able to actually tell yourself, I'm not gonna let that person to fail me again. It's that kind
Actually,
of
also to
persistence.
fail faster as well. That's how you grow.
Yeah. So that, I think be persistent, and then just don't follow trend. It's like if your colleague are actually as simple as doing PPE, your colleague is doing PPE, I have to do it as well. It actually take a lot of commitment to do that. So if
Definitely.
you are not ready, if you are still thinking about it, take your time. Your friend might have his time already, but if you don't have your time there, let it be. Just go ahead with what you feel like doing, I guess. Yeah.
How about those people who want to become a QP, and then so anything you want to share, like after getting QP, or
After getting QP is not everything, guys.
Yeah.
It's like even after you get your QP, I think, okay, to start the QP journey, it obviously forced you to study.
Oh, yes.
Things that you might not even be interested in, you have no choice. You have to learn about it because it might be coming out in the question, right? So you kind of like insert that knowledge in your brain as well. But once you get your cert, it's actually another world where you still need to learn as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, you used to be like a person who just follow your QP.
Yep.
Now that you're becoming a QP, you can actually be friend with your actual project QP. You know, like you share about it, the exchange of like understanding might be different. I
Yeah,
feel.
yeah.
So that's so. Yeah, I guess it's like, be the commitment is there. After you're getting your QP, it doesn't mean that you stop learning. It's actually probably learning a lot more
Yeah.
than before being a QP, because it's like before being a QP, you always have someone to shield you. Once you have a QP, right, that title, people will actually expect you to know more.
Yes.
So it's like you have to.
But actually, the more you
Memorize.
know, the more you know what you don't know.
Yeah,
It's like you
exactly.
become aware of things. Hey, actually, I don't know about these things.
I think like a few days back, one of our colleague was like asking me. I'm like, you're right. I also don't know. Let's look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, even after being a QP, right? Don't be ashamed of like admitting that you don't know.
That's
If
the
you
best,
don't
yeah.
know, you just say you don't know.
To be honest,
you find
right?
it.
Yeah.
To be honest about it. Don't pretend that you don't know.
Correct.
The more you pretend you know, right?
You're digging yourself a hole.
Yeah, you're literally digging your own burial site.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very good advice. So, to summarize your advice, right, is persistence. And then also for those QPs who already got the QP, right, don't be too egoistic.
Yes.
And also be honest and continue to learn because it's a lifelong journey.
Yeah, and then I think one more skill, underrated skill, I feel, how you treat people
Yes.
is a very underrated skill, because in our field of work, we actually meet a lot of people, and sometimes it's very hard to control our emotion when, say for example, you're meeting someone that is just so stubborn, or who is just like is like, you can tell that the person doesn't know but he pretends to know, for example, like that.
Okay.
So this underrated skill of like how you treat people, not to say like, for example, I'm already a QP, you're not a QP yet, I know a lot of things. It doesn't work that way. So
No.
this underrated skill is something that
Maybe last time it works, but now it doesn't.
yeah. This underrated skill of like how you treat people, underrated skill of like
Yes.
how you behave, how you defend yourself is also a very underrated skill that I think everybody need to have nowadays.
Good advice. Thank you so much, Shanty, for joining
No
me in the episode.
problem.
Yeah, chat soon.
Yeah.
Okay.